Chapter 24. The Fudblaisse Cup Winners. It was the first days of August 2010. The school's Fudblaisse Cup tournament was approaching again, that morning in the living room of the House of Jade Clovers. The director Yuri Quested had left a letter in the school's mailbox. Lounge. Gavin, Roger, Rasmus, Alessio, Oscar, Danny, Darius, Hector, Lester and Chaka were on the Fudblaisse field at a morning practice for the house team. Nick Jorgensen was chatting with Fergie Banks, a short, thin girl of light skin, blue eyes and blonde hair. He saw the letter in the mailbox, and upon reading it he immediately left for the Fudblaisse field to notify the others. "Guys, see this. I have bad news for you," said Nick as he panted from the run he had made from the living room. "What's wrong?" Gavin asked. "It's about you, Gavin, and Roger," said Nick. Gavin opened the letter and began to read aloud. "Dear students of the House of Jade Clovers, as director, I am pleased to announce that this year you will be able to participate in the school Fudblaisse Cup tournament. The teacher team will not be retired, so this year we will have a total of 9 teams. Remember that registration closes this August 13th. You must corroborate the information with Professor Cindy Marks or Professor Daryl Martine, both of whom are in charge and organizers of the tournament. Sincerely, Dir. Yuri Quested. Postscript. The students Gavin Fowler, Roger Green, Adrian Barry will not be able to participate as players this year in the tournament, so they will have to look for new players. This is what the discipline department ruled. Sincerely, Professor Sylvana Gardner." "I'm sorry guys, you're banned, you can't play," said Nick a little sadly. "It's incredible. That's why it seemed strange to me that Professor Daigo Calders would insinuate this. Sometimes we chat about Fudblaisse when I meet him in the hallways or at recess," said Gavin. "We haven't done anything," said Roger. "That damn teacher, always getting her way," said Oscar abruptly. "It would be better to change the system and do the same thing again." "Team," added Aaron. "Don't worry about us, we will support you from the stands, but count on me for the logistics. I will help you make the team," said Gavin. "Excellent. That's how you talk," Nick shouted. The boys insisted that Gavin appeal the decision together with Roger, but they said that it would be useless. All their requests would never be positive for the teachers and directors. So they decided to help with the logistics of the team and support from the outside. In the afternoon, at the ranch, Gavin took a sheet of paper and began writing down several names of the possible selections for this year's team. Alessio and Chaka would be the catchers. Since Black did not want to participate but did want to support, nor did Alvord due to his trauma with the last time in the final 6 years ago, Aaron would be the pitcher along with Priscilla. While for the outfield and bases they would be Danny Grant, companion since the first year of the group, a boy, thin, tall, with short hair, dark skin and green eyes, Oscar Rose, Nick Jorgensen. John Paul Muniz, another boy since the first year, short, thick, with short hair, bushy beard, Saul Kali, also since first year, short, thick, light skin, short hair, Josh Plant, the thick, tall, light skin and short hair boy with green eyes who helped with the information about the orbs in the House of the Eagles Scarlets, Darius Jordan, the tall, thin boy with medium-length hair, glasses and a beard, who had a dragon mark on his arm, Lester Ford, the smart boy in class, thick, short, with glasses, short hair, Arthur Tull, Hector Quincy and Alex Chakonpeak, while the girls would be Leisha Nanny, a tall, thin girl, with long curly hair, light skin and brown eyes, Angelica Chong, Malith Marley, a tall girl, with fair blonde, with short hair and brown eyes, Yasser Madison, a short girl, with curly hair, dark skin and brown eyes, and Natty Rice, the short girl, with black hair, light skin, brown eyes. All of them being companions and part of the house since the first year. The selection was ready, so Gavin took another sheet of paper and handed it to Nick and Aaron to sign up the team the next day. Finally, they managed to register the team without any problem, and they were preparing by training for the day of the tournament. On Saturday, August 26, 2010, the day of the tournament arrived. That morning, at around 8:15 in the morning, in the south stands of the Fudblaisse field, the Jade Clovers fans were ready to support their team. While other rival fans booed them from their seats. Gavin, Roger, Alvord, Daniel, Gustav, Bastian, Mariah, Emily, Louis, Samantha and the rest of the house supported their companions with their signs, scarves, whistles and more. Minutes later, Angie entered the place, bringing I got green balloons. They quickly began to inflate them to dye that sector of the stands green. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the bell of the clock tower in the school's square rang. And Professor Daryl Martin and Professor Cindy Marks entered to announce the schedules and matches of the tournament. They quickly explained the instructions, the rules, as it had been the last time. Among the Clovers fans, the expectation was high. They wanted to repeat the feat of 6 years ago, with a fairly new team, but with the slogan that they could do an excellent role. And now, Professor Daryl will tell you the order of the tournament matches, said Professor Cindy over the speakers. Thank you very much, Professor Marks. As you know, this year we have 9 teams. The schoolhouses, added to the teachers' team, so we will first hold a qualifying match to determine the winner and start the quarterfinal round with the 8 remaining teams. So the first team to play, according to the raffle we have done, will be Gems versus Professors, said Professor Daryl. The winner of this tie will advance to the quarterfinals, where in this next round, the matches will be as follows: Knights versus Clovers. Professor Daryl announced. The Clovers returned to the competition after a few years, said Professor Daryl. While giving that statement, in unison, a boo was chanted, cheaters, traitors, sinners, by the other hobbies. Knights versus clubs. Eagles versus professors. Gems. Bees versus canaries. Lions versus falcons, said the teacher after hearing the boos. Thank you very much, Professor Daryl. It's time for the games to start, Professor Cindy said, and she blew her whistle. Play ball, Professor Daryl shouted, and the tournament began. At 9:30 in the morning, the first game between the Professors versus Gems. The Professors took the lead very early with 3 very fast runs. Due to the errors that the Gems were making, it was a fairly fast match, since 40 minutes after it began, the match ended 3-8, with a score in favor for the Professors, taking advantage of the fact that, in the last inning, they had the bases full and Professor Daigo Calders finished off and achieved a grand slam that gave his team the victory. Around 10 in the morning, the match between Treboles versus Caballeros would begin. Minutes before, in the dressing room, Gavin met with the rest of the team and repeated the instructions to them. Words from 6 years ago. Do you remember when we were here 6 years ago? You feel the same sensation, right? The same nerves? But you can. They are phenomenal at playing. Give your best. And as I told you last time, the best strategy is to go out and have fun, no matter how you do it. The dressing room applauded, and it was an injection of motivation for the group. Everyone joined in. Some kids came down from the stands to the dressing room like Angie, Black, Roger, Emily to support the group. They all made a circle. In the center, there was a ball. Everyone put their hands on it and then made their war cry. 1, 2, 3, clubs. The referee was already blowing his whistle for the teams to go out onto the field, so Gavin, in the tunnel, gave them some new words again. Guys, you already know. Aaron, pre, Today you will make the best throws. Chaka, Alessio. Today you will catch all the balls perfectly. Darius, Arthur, Saul, Oscar. Today you will be the fastest on the bases and in the outfield. Danny, Nick, John Paul, Maleth. Today you will be the best and you will cut off all those hits and they will give us many outs. Nanny. Today, thanks to your height, you will catch everything in the air. Engelitsa, Natty, Josh, Hector. Today you will be the best finishers and many races will come thanks to you. Come on. If possible. After those words everyone smiled, they were motivated and ran out onto the field. The others returned to their places in the stands. The game began. The Knights had had a lot of problems this year to form their team. Many first-year players, and many rookies. Priscilla started as pitcher. She quickly eliminated all the Knights' finishers until reaching the 3 outs. In the next inning, the Clovers team went to the kickbox, where they quickly took the lead with an excellent shot by Aaron, which turned into a home run towards the east stands. The score was 1-0 up for the Clovers. As the minutes passed, the Knights pitcher made a mistake and gave bases to the Greens. Nick and Engelitsa were on first base and Danny approached the kickbox. The Knights pitcher made a mistake in his throw and the ball went a little slow, which Danny Grant took advantage of to finish with his left leg towards one of the outfield, but it was so powerful that the ball crossed the line and became a home run, which would be 3 new runs for the Clovers, leaving the score at 4-0 over the Knights. The score remained that way, and in the last inning, the Knights had some hits and moments of grace that turned into runs, but not enough. Time was not enough for them. The outs arrived quickly and the Clovers took the victory 4-3 over the Knights. Thus, the Green team advanced to the semi-finals of the tournament. After the game, in the dressing room, as in those years, there was a total uproar. Gavin was congratulating them. Daniel and Angie told them to continue like this, that the celebration should be discreet, since they had not won anything yet, and that the game's semi-finals would be even more difficult. After this, before the next game, teachers Daryl and Cindy came out to communicate about the prizes, where they reported that this year, the first prize for the winner would be a supply of 15 pizzas from Pizza Star Marcanero in the Mackenzie Tower and the trophy, for second place, 10,000 rods and for third place 5,000 rods. The organization reported that the prizes were reduced this year due to new improvements to the playing field. The match between the Bees versus Canarios began, where in this match, it was very fast. In a matter of 15 minutes, the Canaries had their bases full due to the errors made by the Bee pitcher. So a boy named David Hartley made a shot and achieved a grand slam, giving the Canaries the victory 5-0 against the Bees. Following this match, the Professors would face the Eagles, where the match took more than 50 minutes, due to how intense and balanced it had been. The match was 3-3, an extra inning was being played. Dan Lizard was of the closer pitcher. Professor Daigo Calders was in the kicking box, so Dan sent a curved fastball. Professor Daigo Calders perfectly timed his timing and he finished off, making the ball go to left field, crashing against the edge that divided the playing field from the stands. The ball was pressed into that wall, from what Dan Lizard told the professor. Professor Darrell, that play should not count. The ball exploded and was left in that limbo. The play must be repeated. Wait, we can't repeat the play. That's what the regulations say. If the ball has its rubber aspect towards the field, it will be a hit and your opponent will have a base. But if the aspect is towards the stands, it will be a race. Professor Darrell responded. Damn, what was missing? Dan concluded. The other judges and referees of the organizing committee approached and verified. Finally they made the decision to award the race to the Professors. So the match was 3-4 in favor of the Professors. Finally, Dan, furious and resigned, threw strikes to the last out, and thus the game would end quickly. And it was a new defeat for the Aguila and the pass to the semi-finals for the Professors. Dan and his Eagles team walked upset and resigned towards the dressing room, where passing near the door were Gavin, Oscar, Nick, Chaka, Alessio and Aaron. Dan approached them and said, "Don't even think you'll win this year, losers. You will lose the next game. But know that next year, when you face us, we will tear you to pieces on the field and you will lose, I would hope in a clean way, without tricks and fouler tricks. Or without these stupid mistakes by the referees and the organization," and he went to his dressing room. Blah, 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 next time I'll send that guy to buy hair gel. Who does that slob think he is? Said Bastian as he listened to what Dan was saying in front of his friends. In the last match of the quarter-finals, the Lions faced the Falcons. After 20 minutes of the game, it was 0-0. The Lions pitcher began to argue with the Falcons kicker. The discussion passed after the blows. A pitched battle broke out between both teams. Shouts for the fight began in the stands. Damn! What they were missing, now they will suspend the tournament. Gavin said annoyed. No, not at all, according to the rules of this game. If a player fights with another, and they go to blows, the referee will intervene until one of the players falls to the ground. And the team that won will be declared the loser. Has started the blows, and the other will be declared the winner, said Angie while reading a book about the history and rules of Fudblaisse. Well, I think I should give that message now in the dressing room, Gavin added. After several minutes of dispute between the players, the Falcons players fell to the ground. So Professor Darrell blew his whistle and ended the game and disqualified the Lions for having started the problem and the blows, so the Falcons advanced with a score of 3-0 by default. The Lions players were upset, but they knew that because of their pitcher they had been childishly eliminated for starting a fight. After a few minutes, Professor Darrell announced the semi-finals of the tournament, which would be as follows: the Professors versus the Canaries and the Clovers versus the Falcons. After 2 in the afternoon, the match between the Professors and the Canaries began. The Canaries had had a lot of problems with their team, since some players were exhausted and had had injuries since the last match against the Bees, so this was a very big problem, so the substitute players never understood each other on the field, thus causing errors in favor of the Professors, causing the Professors to take the victory at the end of the match with a score of 2-0. As it was 2:30 minutes in the afternoon, the match between the Clovers versus Halcones was about to begin. Gavin took advantage and went down to the dressing room again to remind his teammates to avoid any type of fight and dispute, since I believed that the Falcons could use this same trick in the semifinal match, so it was clear to everyone, even Aaron and Darius. They repeated it every minute to Oscar, who was a boy who easily got out of his head. Oscar, you know, if they say something to you, ignore them, said Aaron. Don't say things to the referees either, or they will expel you. If not, we at the ranch will give you a punishment, said Darius. Yes, I know. Both of you shut up. You don't have to keep repeating that to me, responded Oscar abruptly. Professor Darrell came out onto the field and gave a warning about the sanctions against the Falcons team for the previous match, and several players were reprimanded and sanctioned. So, if they wanted to play, they had to wait until an eventual final, so their team only had 9 players. They did not have players to change. This motivated the Clovers, since they knew it was an advantage for them, so the game began. The Falcons, having their star players suspended, had to improvise with players in other positions that they were not used to, making them not feel comfortable in their position, and making mistakes, so Alex Chakonpik, Leja Nani, Hector Quincy, and the rest were making runs like drinking a glass of water. In the second inning, the game was 15-1, So the captain of the Falcons threw the white handkerchief on the grass and reported that they were giving up. Because they could no longer, they had more players, they had 2 injured on the field, one of them was their catcher, which gave the Clovers a place in the final. After this, it was a joy in the dressing rooms. The Clovers were in the final again. Gavin again came to the dressing room to congratulate them and told them, "Excellent guys, we are in the final again. As I told you the first time, and in the morning, just go out there on the field and have fun. No matter what, let's go get that cup." "Yeah, come on," they all shouted in unison. Angie and Daniel approached Gavin and said, "Imagine how beautiful the cup will look in the meeting room of the ranch or in the common room." After the break, as it was 4 in the afternoon, it was a gray afternoon, with some rays of sun, the final would begin. Both teams took the field. It was the first final for the Professor's team and it was the second for the Clovers team. The raffle was held with a coin toss and the Clovers would go to the kickbox in the first inning. "Well, we won the raffle. It is a good omen," Nick said from the bench. Aaron was the captain of the team, and it was he who won the raffle over Daigo Calders, who was the captain of the teachers. The Clovers lined up that afternoon in the final with Aaron as pitcher, Alessio as catcher, Danny as SS, Nick, Darius and Oscar on the bases, while in the outfield there would be Priscilla, Angelica and Lesia. The game began. The club's fans began to shout in support. The fans of the other houses joined forces and began to support the Professors. The Professors' pitcher quickly obtained the 3 outs at the start, quickly eliminated the kickers of the clubs. So, in the next inning, Aaron quickly began to make his pitches, between strikes and balls from the first kicker of the Professors. "That Professor's pitcher is good. If you analyze her ball throw, she is of a high level, but her catching is not that effective," said Alessio. "Yes, I was also thinking about the speed of the Professor's kickers. In their bases and in their outfield," added Danny. "They're not as strong as Aaron at kicking," said Darius. "We just have to avoid sending balls to left field. Their outfielder on that side has a special ability to catch," said Chaka. "Yes, I've been watching her." "They're right," said Lesia, while Angelica concluded, "This sport is measured by your skills in throwing, speed, catching and kicking. I think we are very much on par with their level, but if we have confidence, we can win." Finally, Aaron managed to eliminate the Professor's kicker. It was the first out for the Clovers. The other pitches were very similar to the first. The second Professor's kicker managed to make a hit, but Lesia caught the ball at the right moment before fall to the ground and reached the second out. Finally, for the third out, Professor Odward made a low shot that Danny managed to catch and throw to Oscar at first base to quickly eliminate him and find the third out. Thus the entire game went on, tense and balanced. Outs and more outs. The pitchers of each team did not fail. The outfielders and bases were well positioned and mentally concentrated on the game, until we reached the last inning, where the clubs had to close in the kicking box. It was a perfect opportunity to achieve race and win the game. Aaron, Nick, Hector, Alessio, Chaka, Priscilla, Angelica, Yasser, Danny and Darius were eliminated by strikes, by the pitcher and his balls elevated to fouls field. The inning had 2 outs for the Professors and the next one in the box Oscar was the kicker. The Professors had changed pitchers, and he threw a slow but curved ball, where Oscar took the opportunity to finish with all his strength and the ball went high. The stadium was silent while the ball went through the air. The looks they were on the ball. The people in the stands were speechless. The ball was heading with force to center field, where after gaining height, it began to go down and fell to the other side of the wall. It was a race. The Clovers were 1-on-1. Up 0 on the scoreboard in the final. Oscar ran around all the bases with a happy face. The rest of his team ran to first base to celebrate with him. a total joy. The Clovers were very close to winning the title of champions of that year. An out separated them from glory, so the next to the batter's box was John Paul, but he injured his ankle, so he gave space to Josh, where he made a high shot at a certain height that the professor's pitcher tried to protect himself from a blow to the face, causing him to cover himself and catch the ball, getting it stuck between his arms and abdomen. The game was over. The referee blew his whistle 3 times, ending the game. The Clovers were the winners of the Rhoda School Fudblaisse Cup for the first time in their history. The Casa fans invaded the field. There were people standing on their shoulders and arms. There were people jumping. The balloons, banners and whistles were shown even more in the center of the field. The fans and teachers of the other Casas began to leave the stands with their heads down. Due to the result, Gavin told Oscar that after this, they would make a statue of him at Asgard Ranch as a joke. The entire team from this moment on was in the golden pages of the house and the history of the championships. Fudblaisse of the school. The teachers congratulated the students of the house. The director Yuri Quested held an awards ceremony in the center of the field, handing out the pizza boxes and the trophy. Upon taking it, all the players and some members of the fans, they put their hands on it and raised it high. A small ray of sunlight shone on the shiny, silvery metallic texture of the 2-kilo trophy. With plaques of the champions throughout its history, its silver ears of a spiral texture to hold it in your hands. After this, they passed the trophy among the members of the group while running around the entire field. My most sincere congratulations, guys. I think that this deserves flexibility in the measures. As the patriarch in the Lunesque station informed me, you can now leave the dungeons and return to your homes. However, every morning and every afternoon, they will be escorted from your homes to the school and vice versa by the sentinels. Enjoy this cup, which will look great in your living room, said Director Yuri Quested over the speakers. The day ended and everyone went to their homes with the sentinels. These guys were guarding outside their homes. Tall guys. They looked like clones. They all had their resemblance. Their polyester clothing, a rigid and tight dark blue fabric, a helmet in the shape of a kepi, which covered their eyes, some medals according to their rank on their uniform, weapons such as rifles in their arms. Serious people with few words, in addition to carrying handcuffs, were allowed to use dark magic paralysaga, shield acrylic, a wooden cane or blackjack, metal vests over their abdomen, and the emblem of the Lunesque station and the city council on their kepis and on the sleeve of their uniform. Only their noses and mouth were visible. When they arrived at their homes, some members of the group took the opportunity to circumvent security stealthily and escape from the homes through the windows and backyards to reach the ranch again. Once there, they celebrated obtaining the cup. The trophy was placed on an altar in the common room of the Asgard Ranch, so that everyone could appreciate it. Daniel Black bought an exact replica so that it would stay in the classroom and they would not suspect the whereabouts of the original. After the celebration in the common room, Gavin, Angie and Daniel went up to the top and said some words. "Every day we are freer," said Black. "We will no longer return to those dungeons. Now I ask you for a lot of strategy and stealth to evade the guards of our homes," said Angie. "Every night we will return home to sleep, so every morning we will be ready for school. The sentinels will guard us until the train, in the afternoons. When those silly sentinels take us to our homes, we will outwit them and come to the ranch every afternoon and every night. And that will be our plan," said Gavin as they continued with the party at the ranch, between pizza, beer, sandwiches, chips, snacks, chocolate donuts and sweets from Hanmark's. Nick and Aaron entered with Oscar on his shoulders. Oscar was a little drunk from the celebration, but after a while, his alcoholic state went down. Everyone laughed. The 15 pizzas had been sold out quickly, as if a wave of hungry ants was passing through the ranch. At that, Mariah came up with a plan, and shouted from the top of the common room stairs. "Guys, I just thought of a plan," said Mariah. "About what?" asked Angie. "Our ranch already has a lamp. I thought that we could enable lamps in our homes with the song that Mary Cross taught us in her book, so we wouldn't have to walk through the neighborhood and we would just transport ourselves directly. That way it will be easier to outwit those sentinel socks," explained Mariah. "Great idea," said Black. "And how are we going to do it?" asked Roger. "Oh, right. Not everyone has that ability. I forgot that detail," said Mariah, resigned. "Mariah, it could be that you and Emily are in charge of enabling the lamps in the different homes. So the homes are divided and it will be faster," said Alvord. "It's fine with me," Emily replied. So after the idea that Alvord provided, Mariah and Emily got to work with the rest of the members of the ranch, and during the night of that day, they walked stealthily throughout Green Hills, hiding among trees, trash cans, bushes, lamps to cross in one direction, house to another by enabling the lamps in each of the members' homes, and thus sending them back to the ranch through them to meet again. Fortunately, Chaka and Bastian, their relatives, had moved to the neighborhood, and in a matter of a few hours, they enabled the lamps with their wind instruments and the song that the Mary Cross legacy had left in the homes of each of the members of the ranch group before dawn. Each lamp had been enabled in their rooms.